Welcome to the Work Trends podcast from Talent Culture. I'm your host, Megan Mbiro. Every week, I interview interesting people who are reimagining work. And be sure to check out our Work Trends Twitter chat events calendar located at talentculture.com on the podcast page. Welcome to the Talent Culture Work Trends podcast. Women have been making huge strides in the workplace over the last several decades, but there's still a lot of room for improvement when it comes to gender equality. The proverbial glass ceiling is still very much a reality for many women, and the pay gap between men and women persists in most industries. In 2021, there were only 41 women CEOs in the Fortune 500, a staggering 8.1% of all CEOs. The good thing is that this is an all-time high, and perhaps in the future, this percentage will continue to grow. So, what can be done to accelerate the advancement of women in the workplace? What challenges do women face that men don't? And how can we overcome them? In today's episode, we are going to be exploring how women can up-level their power in the workplace and beyond. We know what's possible when we have a seat at the table, because you know what? We're worth it. Today, we are joined by Todd Mitchum. Todd Mitchum has been called a future of work expert and visionary. He is a former tech CEO who discovered firsthand how our over-customizing of technology was and is damaging our relationships, which was the subject of his TED Talk. He has been recognized for building communication programs that stand the test of time, regardless of all this fancy tech. He's always looking into the future and helping clients navigate today's ever-changing, transformative landscape of work. He's an accomplished author on the topic of disruption and a business leader who has worked with some of the top companies at the upper level of the Fortune 100. His book, You Disrupted, helps leaders and individuals understand the importance of intentional self-disruption. So welcome to Work Trends, Todd.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, listen, it's always important to look at this issue from the perspective of a male leader. So let's begin, shall we? So, how can women step into their power at work?
This is one of my favorite topics because I teach a great amount of presentation, communication, and executive presence skills. And I've had something strange happen over the last probably 4 years. And that is that most of the participants, so let's say there's a big company, maybe it's a Microsoft or maybe it's someone like that, and they bring me in to teach people who can sign up for a presentation skills initiative. Most of the time, I would say 98% of the registrations are women. And one of the biggest things they walk away with is I will often say to them, hey, you are standing here presenting because you deserve to be there. Someone believed that you deserved it. You just need to own that power. You need to step into that power. And so they'll say, well, how do I do that? Because I don't want to seem... And they'll use the things that I hate, the things I will never say to my daughter, I don't want to seem like I'm too aggressive or I'm too bossy or and I go, no, stop it. Stop. You deserve to be there. We have to start there in that mentality. I mean, a lot of this for the women who are my clients will say, they never thought of that mentality that they deserve it. So that stepping into their power starts with deserving. And then the next piece is lean on what you know, lean on what you're good at and step into that strength that you have. If you're talking about a female leader or a female individual who works at Microsoft in the AI division, this is a person who has incredible numbers of degrees, way smarter than I am, and more than deserves to be in that room, and yet maybe doesn't understand that. And oftentimes I think, and this is where I think a lot of my male counterparts and colleagues fail, is that they don't remind the women in their teams that they deserve it. They don't remind them. They don't step back.
In fairness, who's really thinking of it in that way? And to your point, we should be.
For sure. This doesn't just come because I have a daughter and I'm married and I have other kids as well, but it's stuff I teach my boys. It's just what I've seen in the business world. There's an evolution occurring.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about ways in which, number one, we can empower women. But number two, let's talk best practices. How have we seen women using your courses help them engage their power specifically?
Well, I think what happens is it gives them a framework to let their intelligence, let their knowledge let their wisdom, depending on who they are, let that emerge. A lot of times they have not been taught, these are skills. Executive presence is a skill. It's not like you're born an executive leader, it's a skill.
Seriously, Todd, great point. It's a skill.
100%. And so if you teach them the skill, it's amazing to watch that emergence. It's truly amazing because now they get to bring out all the things they've worked so hard to achieve. It's powerful. It's just a powerful moment. But it's skill-based. You learn the skill and your intelligence, your wisdom, your knowledge all emerge almost naturally.
You say often, and we've already covered this a bit, that women need to realize they deserve to be in the position they're in and should claim it. But what do you really mean by this?
Well, I think society has in large part, I don't want to say deceived women, but they've made them think that they're supposed to act like their male counterparts, not realizing that the reason a lot of men act the way they do is either due to insecurity or they're afraid they're going to be, replaced or, just something inside them, loss of respect. So they're working off of very unconscious things. And women think they're then supposed to be, act exactly like some of their male counterparts who are successful, like aggressive or overly, dominating or things like that. When in truth, if they just led with their knowledge base, if they just led with all the hard work they're doing on themselves, if they just led with those experiences they've had and the things they're good at, like whatever they've learned in their field, if they just lean on that instead of trying to outmatch the ego of the male leader that they have, they're going to find that they fall into a better place because it's with far more confidence. I know we can have a debate all day about the difference between, men and women and things, but at the end of the day, women have incredible strengths, just incredible strengths. And I think they actually are doing a disservice by trying to act like their male counterparts. And I'm speaking as a male, and I know that I've had the same journey. I spoke to a group of men recently who were executive leaders, and we were talking about men and women in leadership. And I said, I bet if I went around right now and personally one-on-one asked all of you, all the men in this room would tell me they have a deep insecurity about something that is driving their decision making. And that can hold people back around you. So that's what women, I think, need to focus on. What are they really strong at and just go do it.
Talk to us about how you landed in the role that you have. Like, how did you come to these tools and discoveries for women?
It's an evolution. And I would love to say that I was always like this, and that would be completely fabricated. The truth is, I used to be just like the typical guy in the office who was probably afraid of a strong female leader. And I wouldn't be very supportive. I wouldn't be very good with, just being relational. I was not part of the solution. Let's just say that gently. But what happened to me is I started training, a lot of times, I also own another company that teaches these kinds of things in wellness programs and things. And what I learned was by just interacting with top level, very intelligent women and just learning that the only thing holding them back was some unconscious belief that society dropped on them at some point in the future. And I needed to evolve if I was going to help change that. And I think the other thing that happened is about 3 or 4 years ago, my daughter was in middle school and someone said to her on a piece of paper, a male teacher wrote, "You don't need to be so aggressive and bossy in class." And I think I just lost my mind. And I just told her, that's ridiculous. So first of all, I've never seen that written on any of your brother's work. That's absolutely ridiculous. The teacher and I had a long, quite heated conversation. So I think my evolution started right in those timeframes. And I just realized I wanted to be a part of the solution.
You have helped thousands of women claim their power to step into their roles more fully. How can you as a man do this? And what advice do you have for people in business to help women in this way? Because frankly, there's not enough of Todds out there.
I'm flattered that you would say that. Yeah, I appreciate that. But I think for women, like I said, they need to step into their power, and I think men need to step up. So I say this a lot. It's a book I'm working on right now. It's my next book will be Step Up and Step In. And I think it's about women stepping into their power. So they need to, separate from whatever their male counterparts believe, they need to be continuing to evolve. Women are evolving at an incredible pace, and men need to step that up. So women need to step into that power. They need to step into the roles they deserve. They need to realize that if they're in the room, they deserve to be there. If they're not fighting to get in the room, that might be a different thing. But if they're in the room already and someone tells them, hey, get up and go and speak about this, or go and talk about this, or design this for us, they're already in the room. So they need to step into that power. They need to take ownership over that and realize they deserve it. And then for men, every man who hears this, every man who's listening, man, I'm just telling you, one brother to another, you have got to step up. You've got to, resistance of these things or fear or your unconscious belief structure will dishevel you. It'll destroy you. And the best thing you can do is embrace the power that we have as a sort of a unified group. And so that stepping up, though, guys, if you're listening, takes squashing your ego. It takes, dealing with your unconscious fears. I mean, it takes a lot of work, but man, the benefit is nothing short of amazing.
No, you're living your truth, and there's really nothing more freeing than that, and then that's where the good stuff happens. I mean, when we move our ego over and we step in or step up, that's where all the goodness happens. That's where innovation can occur. It's not going to happen if everybody's biting their nails, worrying about the next move and their ego. And it gets in the way. And I think it's really frustrating, actually.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. And I hear that from female learners who are taking courses of mine. I will hear them say that because there's a trust that gets built. I'm very good at getting trust built very quickly with them because I'm coaching them one-on-one and I'm helping them navigate this world that oftentimes is terrifying. And I'll say, look, you can go to these other levels and do it with great confidence. But I think they're sharing with me what is still going on in the world. And again, I know you know this probably all too well, but just being in the field you're in and talking to lots of people, but the world is not fixed for women. It's not like the corporate world is suddenly magically wonderful for women. It isn't. It's an illusion.
It is.
And I've talked women through all sorts of things, from still being harassed physically to, being harassed and demoted because they spoke up. I mean, I still coach women through those transitions and deal with those attacks. And I'm telling you, that stuff is still alive and well. That's where I see men need to step up and stop that kind of behavior.
And I do think it goes both ways. I think it's men and women alike. I think all of us should try to check our ego at the door if you really want to make work happen in any real way. I do think it goes both ways.
I think that's absolutely a great point. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It does go both ways. There are both sides of it that are trying to figure it out, that also have strong egos and think they have to fight their way to the top. And I do understand that. And then we're not even talking about other sides of it where people come in and there's a transgender aspect of this, so things are changing for them, and we need to honor that as well. And that's a whole other dynamic of change. But again, I think the future of business is going to mean the death of the ego in a large way, because changing, morphing, becoming better, embracing everyone's diversity, that takes real consciousness, and you've got to consciously smash your ego to make that happen.
And there's nothing really that important about the ego. It's really superficial in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I say to people, the ego is really your fight to win. You just want to be right instead of getting it right.
Exactly. So do you think, Todd, that we're moving towards a more gender equal workplace, workforce, however we want a future of work? Why or why not?
I think what's happening is we're in a transition, and I think we've got a lot of work to do. I've seen it. I see it firsthand. I think the future of work is going to be both where we honor each other's individuality. So we say, there are things, women will do and want to do differently than men do, and that's totally fine. And yet at the same time, we have to arrive together at the same common place of wanting diversity, wanting everyone to succeed, being on the same side of the fight when we're in organizations and when we're working together. We should be celebrating each other regardless of who is successful at what point. I think we've got to get rid of this divisional piece. A lot of people want to pit us against each other instead of teaching us how to support each other. That's what I'm working on for the future of work, is how do we crush that desire to be separate when so much can unite us in a big way as men and women. And I think that could be the future. Again, we have a lot of forces against us. Media, social media, always trying to put us against each other, always trying to build these walls and making it very difficult to navigate. And so we have to overcome that. And that's what, when I talk about technology, that's kind of where I land too. We've commoditized ourselves, and it's very dangerous for humanity, I think. but our future could be bright or it could go a totally different direction.
What about the future of women in the workplace? What do you think that holds specifically?
I think it holds, like I said, there's a huge evolution going on right now with women. This is what I'm seeing firsthand with the women that I work with every year and work to coach and coach leaders. Women seem to be, now I'm of course generalizing, I'm not saying all women or I'm not saying everyone, but in a mass quantity, women seem to be really wanting to capture their growth. They want to take control of it. They want to learn. They're taking most of the training courses out there, especially the voluntary ones. They really want to grow and learn and evolve. And they're doing so at a hyper pace. And I think they expect it in large, at least the women I've worked with say, I really thought men were doing the same thing. Men have started, I don't want to say rebellion, but they've started to kind of back off that. And it's like, no, I'm done learning and I don't want to learn anymore. Yeah, go ahead and step up there. I mean, we see it in college, college graduations, college valedictorians are all mostly women. More women are going into college and completing degree programs than men. So I think women are evolving at a faster pace. And, that's, again, my argument to men kind of needing to step up a little bit.
Love that. That is full circle. And, this has been a really important and powerful discussion, Todd. And I just can't thank you enough for stopping by. And, you and I could probably do a whole series of podcasts, and maybe we even will, hint, hint, in the future sometime.
I would love it.
Yeah, but, appreciate you and all the work you're doing.
Well, thank you for all you're doing. And again, I'm just excited to be here and be talking about these things. I think this is how we evolve together.
Thanks for listening to the Work Trends Podcast, your favorite source for all that's new and exciting in the world of work. If you love what we do here, make sure to share our podcast with your friends, your colleagues, you name it. And don't forget to tune into our next episode. Catch up with you next time. Thanks to listening to Work Trends from Talent Culture. Join us every Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern for a live Twitter chat with our podcast guest. To learn more about guests featured on today's show, visit the show notes for this episode at talentculture.com and help us spread the word. Subscribe to Work Trends wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a rating, review in iTunes. Share Work Trends with your coworkers, your friends. Look forward to it. See you next time.